Hello again. I'm going to show you how to transform Transbots Ultra Magnus from vehicle mode to robot mode. This is not a review, just a transformation guide. I've laid a cloth down so I can spin him around easily without worrying about paint damage. Although that said, I've transformed him a lot over the last few days and the paint is still absolutely perfect. If you've got the youth version, then what you need to do here is just, well, do that. If you've got the Toon version, then swivel that piece round, and then we're just going to tuck those out the way there. Disconnect the smokestacks. I might as well collapse them now, and then tuck them into the middle, fold away the wing mirrors. Here's a bonus tip for you. You might be able to extend the smokestacks by just giving them a jiggle and then pulling them into place. However, doesn't work so well on the other side. Fold these little pieces away that I totally did not leave out of the previous Ultra Magnus videos. If you think I did, then that's because you're mistaken, or there's a glitch in the matrix, or it's the Mandela effect. But I definitely did do it. Separate the white section from this crossbar on both sides. Tilt the cab to one side so that you can separate this T tab from the slot, and then do the reverse on the other side. Disconnect the side blue piece. There's a tab in there and some tabs along there. The most resistance is going to come from the red ramp tab in there. Tuck away these triangular pieces on both sides. Fold the grey sections into the white and tab them in. And then I'm just going to tab this back together so that it holds in place. We've got to get this bar back under here where it came from. To do that, we need to flip it over. So for vehicle mode, it was sitting with the tabs pointing down towards the ground. You've got to flip those tabs underneath towards the back and up to the top. I really hope you can see that. It's grey on grey, not the best situation. When you've got it pointing upwards like that, you'll have no trouble pushing it in, and then on those double hinges, and then you've got to fold it flat so that the pointy bits are pointing that way. Tidy up the missiles, disconnect the forearms and get those out of the way. So you can fold these red pieces away. This panel should be connected with a tab here. Lift that up, you can fold that away, flip down the white sections, spread the hip skirts, disconnect the legs if they haven't disconnected already, separate these so you've got space to come in here, fold these pieces. You want to keep these red and blue panels extended as far to the front of the truck mode as you can on this double hinge. Double hinge this section up to there, flip this all the way around and pull up this little triangular section for that, and we'll leave it like that. There's a red post in here connected to the blue knee piece. I can't show you properly. And there's a red tab going into the back of his foot there. What you want to do is grab hold of this side piece and tilt it up a little bit. That's going to free up the red tab from there, and then pull this and swing it around. It's easiest to do this quickly when you actually know what you're doing. So a little bit of a push on the foot, you can see that that is freeing up that tab a little bit, and then pull it out. If you pull from the foot, you're going to use his ankle articulation joint, that one that doesn't make much noise. If you pull from this section, you're going to use the transformation joint that clicks a lot. So bring it all the way up to here. This tab here needs to be close to this slot in the knee section where it's going to go very soon. Fold this down. Make sure that the red panel, red and blue panels, are pushed as far down as possible so that the top is flush with the top of this blue piece here. Then bring up the white panel and slot it behind this T-tab here. Tab it in. The red and blue panel is going to be sandwiched between the white shin piece and this tiny tab here. And then we slot the tiny tab into the tiny slot. Now lay him down so that his top of his truck mode is facing down. Just check that this tab under here hasn't come undone. There's a panel here that needs to be folded out. There's a tab here. Don't fold this all the way just yet. You need to keep it a little bit out the side to keep this tab free. That's going to go into a hole down here somewhere. Flip this panel up. Move the foot out the way using his transformation joint this time. Make sure this panel is open. Collapse this red piece down. Double fold all of this blue stuff on top. There's a hinge here that needs to bend that way, just a tiny bit, and then collapse that down completely. Tab that panel in. Don't tab that one in yet. Use this grey piece. This has got to come straight out to the side, and then this folds in. This wheel tucks into this blue piece here, and the white piece goes up quite far to the front. And you'll also see this part of the wheel sits against this diagonal blue piece. And then hopefully you'll be able to close it up. Sometimes I get a clearance issue in there and I haven't figured out what it is. This grey piece is enclosed in this area here. There's a tab just here that's going to go into the underside of this protruding section here. Then close that, close the foot, and make sure the wheels are being pushed up so that they're not going to compromise the stability of the robot mode. Left leg. Make sure this blue piece is out of the way, because this red piece has got to go underneath there. Make sure you're pulling from this piece so that you are using the transformation joint. Let's pull, make sure this is pulled out to the sides with a bit more space. So disconnect that tab there from that hole there. Move this piece so you're using that clicky transformation joint, not the articulation joint. And make sure that there's no clearance issue here. Once you've got the foot going all the way back so that this tab here is aligned with this slot, don't put it in the slot yet. Push this conglomeration of panels down over this red section as far as it will go. Move it to the back, tab in the white panel to the back of that T-shaped piece. On my copy it doesn't actually tab in because the hole is slightly too small. Make sure this red and blue panel is sandwiched between the white panel and the T-tab and this protruding tab here, and then slide this tab into this slot. Now laying down, got plenty of clearance here. Bring this panel up so that there's a gap here. Bring this panel around. It's going to go there ultimately, but you need to keep it just a little bit this way at the moment to keep that tab clear on this side, and then fold all of this in so that this panel goes into that hole. Get the foot out of the way. Slide the wheels up into the foot while you're at it. Push this down as far as it will go. Oh, forgot, we've got to bend that just a little bit, and then lock this plate in there with that tab. Use this hinge to push the wheels down. One wheel is going to slot inside that blue piece. The other wheel is going to sit against this diagonal strut. And the white sits against the blue, and push it as far up towards the knee as it will go, and then close this. There's a tab there, and then close that over that, and close that panel and tab that in. Stand him up. I've got him standing upright, supported on his arms like this, so we can work on the cab section. Disconnect the fuel tanks. The things that you've got to do is take out a white tab from the back of this hole and a tab in there. And then fold the wheel arch sections away. Close the fuel tanks away and click them around that little grey piece there. Untab the wheels, slide this grey piece down, fold away one wheel at a time. There isn't really space to do two at a time, it's a little bit too crowded. Unpeg this tab in here on both sides so that you can fold away these little tabs here. Open up the doors, split the middle of the roof. What you want to do now is open up this section using this hinge, not this hinge. Disconnect that tab there by pushing it downwards, and then bring it out like that and open it up. Fold that away. Let's do it on the other side. So again, we're using this hinge, not this hinge. Quarter turn on these panels, slide, fold that. Disconnect this tab above the wheel arch. There isn't space to fold it in just yet. There can be if we do that. Fold those out of the way. So disconnect this tab, fold the wheel arch in a little bit, and then we want to pivot this section on this section, on this hinge in here, and pivot this section on this hinge. Actually fold that wheel arch all the way in, and then you can tilt this panel back and rotate them together and disconnect. Now you can fold that flat, flip this little right angle piece so that these red pieces are in line, and move it all out of the way onto the other side. Disconnect this tab and push the wheel arch inside. Tilt this piece to the inside and then turn these two pieces together and flip that to disconnect it. Turn this right angle piece so that these two red pieces are in line with each other. Bring the headlight sections into the middle and then double hinge this grey section back and collapse it as close as you can. There are two sliding joints here, but you can just ignore those, they'll take care of themselves. Disconnect the two tabs in here by tilting the windshield section back and then pull it forwards on this joint down here. Spin this white section around and fold the windshield a little bit. You've got to reassemble some of this silver part. This silver U-shaped section is going to go into there. Then you can fold the windshield up on top and close the doors around it. So the windshield is now touching, the back of the roof section is touching this grey piece. Let's tuck these side panels out of the way. We need to spin these red sections around. Tilt them a little bit and then rotate them on this grey hinge until they bump against something, and then when they bump against something, give them another little tilt, spin them a bit more, just keep repeating that process until this grey piece is up, tucked into this corner here. And now perhaps you can see there's a little recess on the inside of these bumper sections that's going to hook onto the back of that red section there. Probably best if I show you from the other side. I can't really show you, but this rectangular piece goes in there. This white piece is already in the right position, but for you guys it might not be in the right position already. It might be like this, in which case you've got to double hinge this white section around underneath that red section. Keep these out of the way and then tab those into place. This grey section has 3 notches. Those are going to connect around these two posts and this post here. So you fold it in like this. Hopefully you can see, so that this grey piece is meeting this grey piece up here. Here we have a post that doesn't move, followed by 3 hinged sections. This section stays down against the roof. Second and third sections need to come up and over, and this grey piece of hinge is going to sit underneath whatever this shelf flap thing on top of the windshield is. We're not going to collapse this hinge just yet. Keep this 4-pronged red section in front of this other red section. While you're trying to do this bit, these 2 hook tabs are going to try and work their way onto the other side of the red section. You don't want that, that makes it a little bit fiddly. So keep these 2 hook tabs in front like that. what you need to do is put these two prongs up into here, where they should click into place. Now we come back to the triple hinge section at the top, close that down, and everything should be nice and secure. Make sure that this hinge is tucked in nicely under this ledge thing. This curved hook piece has got to go into a slot on the lower edge of his chest stomach plate, while this hook tab sits into a hole in there. So I'm slotting the front two tabs, one on each side, in first, and then closing it down like that. I've left his grey waist joints extended so that he can be at a decent angle and height while he's standing up on his hands down there. These red panels need to swing around, and there's a hole and a tab in the front there, so that slots into there, and then this little protuberance sits in a little notch there. Tab and hole there, protuberance and hole just there. Swing the smokestacks around so that they're pointing to the back, and tab them in place, and then swing it down. These hollow sections here are going to go around these two, whatever they are, and then there's a tab and tab on the front of that section that goes behind that blue section. Close this down, close this clear piece over the top. These white panels, if you line them up so that you've got the first section sticking straight out to the side, second section sticking straight out to the side, third section sticking out to the side, and you can see crosses here. Fold these sections down so that these cross sections sit in front of these tabs on either side. There's a circular peg just there and there. These are going to connect into the smokestacks. On this side there's also an extra tab. This is going to go on top of this grey hinge and in this little gap here. It tucks behind the tyre, and then that tab's in there. You should hear it click into place. So it goes behind the tyre there. Oh dear, I seem to have knocked that out of alignment. Make sure this smokestack is tabbed in. There. This is the door. This is the wing mirror sitting in its own little notch. Disconnect the forearms, set the gun aside. Disconnect the shoulder tabs. Disconnect this tab here. Disconnect this round piece on this section here so that you can flip the arms up and close them. I had some problems with mine, and it took me a long time to figure out. I think that what we have in these two slots here are some very tiny tabs which slot into these grooves here. And what seems to have happened is that the corner of this section here had damaged these tabs in here a little bit, and it made it impossible for these to close. By about the second or third transformation, it went from being very difficult to being impossible. So I've had to shave off these two corners here on both sides. Close that, rotate it round, double hinge this piece up and over, and that sits there. Fold this panel up. Put this somewhere that gives you a good opportunity to get a good solid grip on this thing, and collapse that forearm joint. Tuck the missile out of the way, push on this grey section to release this panel, rotate it about a quarter turn, flip the shoulder round half a turn, almost half a turn. Before you finish closing that panel, you need to tilt this section here. It's easier to do it when you're halfway through. That's got to go a quarter turn, then you can close this panel all the way and then fold this panel over the top. Seems to be easiest if you do those two sections separately, even though they're supposed to go together. There's a double hinge here. Make sure that this red section and the blue section meet like this, and then you can wrap the blue over the white section and around the white section here. This section is going to close. There's a microscopic tab here that goes into a hole here. This section clips into there, and there's a tab there that goes into there. Bring this section up. This tab is going to slot into the back of these panels here, so lever this panel forwards a little bit. So that you can tuck that in, and then you've got to squeeze those corners together. Let's collapse his waist joints. Pull out this section here to get this peg out of that hole. Disconnect this tab here. Get the missile out of the way. Fold the arm up here. Again, I've shaved these corners off here. Fold this panel that I definitely didn't forget to do. Double hinge this section up over the top. Put the missile somewhere that gives you a good grip on this thing. Collapse the elbow joint. Let's take care of this piece now. So you've got to lever this front section out a little bit so that that tab there can slot in behind it, and then push that. Push this grey piece forward so you can rotate this panel out, flip the shoulder around to the other side, bend this end joint, quarter turn, that's 2 clicks, and then close that panel all the way, fold this end piece around. Get this out of the way, bring this around, make sure you've got these 2 hinges aligned correctly. Fold the blue on top of the white and around the white, and then bring this piece in here. This is going to tab in, microscopic blue tab into a red hole. This bulging part here goes into that slot there, and there's a tab in that section as well. Separate the forearms. Fold away this grey piece. Double hinge the blue piece back. Get the thumb out while you've got space. Reassemble the sleeve. Adjust the missile however far you want it. I like it in the middle. that grey piece, get the thumb out now while you've got the space, double hinge it back, reassemble the sleeve. So there we are, it's all done back in robot mode, unless I've missed something else out. Please leave me some love in the comments, and if you found this helpful, maybe leave me a little donation through the Ko-fi link down below.